Hello and welcome to Ask for a Trend. I'm Josh Lipton. For the next half hour, we are breaking down the trends of today that'll move stocks tomorrow. There's a lot to keep track of, so we're focusing on what you need to know to get ahead of the curve. Here's some of the trends we're going to be diving into. Hump Day is a slump day. Wall Street is seeing a red Wednesday. Stocks fell as investors digested mixed messaging from Fed officials on interest rates. At the end of the session, all major indices did end the day lower. Sales of single-family homes are rising, but is that good news for the housing industry? We're taking a deep dive into new data and speaking with an expert from Zillow. And the RV of the future is here, a state-of-the-art electric vehicle. If the nomad life is for you, we're learning more about the company behind the RVs, Lightship, from its co-founder. Well, new home sales in the U.S. unexpectedly surged in August. Sales of new single-family homes rise to 800,000 compared to the expected 650,000 sales. But what does this mean for the housing market? Zillow Group senior economist Kara Ng joins us now for a closer look. Kara, it is good to see you, and I'm glad we have you here, Kara, because that new home sales data that came out this morning, Kara, I know it had some people kind of scratching their heads. So new home sales spiked more than 20% in August. That was well above consensus, Kara. I know it's a volatile number, but what do you attribute that number to, Kara? Do you even actually believe that number?
Well, I mean, that number surprised me. I am encouraged by the general trend of this very encouraging new home sales number in August. What I think we can chalk this up to is probably lower mortgage rates as well as builders being willing to make the math work for buyers who are still struggling with affordability challenges. So what we saw was that builders bumped up their use of incentives in August. So things like mortgage rate buy downs or covering closing costs, these things can help buyers save thousands of dollars in their first years of ownership, and that can move the needle on a sale.
So you mentioned mortgage rates, Carol. Let's talk about affordability here. The 30-year fixed is here at 6.37%. That's according to Mortgage News Daily. If it's, say, just roughly around that level, Kara, what would that mean for housing activity?
Well, if you're looking for mortgage rates to save you, I don't necessarily think that's the most sustainable option. So Zillow did an analysis where we were looking at what it would take for the median household to be able to afford a home today, whereas 5 years ago, they were able to afford a home. And basically, mortgage rates would have to fall to a pretty unsustainable level at 4.4%, which we don't think is going to happen anytime soon. But what I can tell you is that anytime the mortgage rate falls down a little bit, it might not help the median buyer, but it can help the marginal buyer. So that means that if you have been looking for a home, look again with the mortgage rate being a little bit lower, because unless you're buying a home with all cash, chances are the pool of listings that you can afford changes will expand when mortgage rates dip a little.
So let me ask you, can we put a number on it? I mean, as an economist, you're modeling the 30-year fixed. 12 months from now, Kara, where do you think it's sitting?
Ooh, yeah, you put me on the spot. Well, I think 30-year fixed mortgage rates are probably going to trend a little bit lower, but I wouldn't suggest anything lower than the range we've seen, which is like around the 6 to 7% range. So maybe at the end of 2026, it'll be on the lower part of that end. But really what the Fed is facing is a tough situation where you have inflation still above target, you have a softening labor market, and they have to balance these two. And so it means that there's a limit of how far mortgage rates can fall, even if you see a softening in one or another.
We're talking a lot about the Fed here, Kara. What about the Trump administration? Because I've been talking to other housing experts and folks, and they've been saying, listen, they think the Trump administration could be doing more to help out the housing market, meaning, hey, there's more to do on deregulation. They could do more to pump up supply. Do you agree with that?
Well, I can't speak to any specific policies, but I can tell you that the fix for affordability isn't through lower mortgage rates, it's through building more. So the problem is that ever since the global financial crisis, we've just been underbuilding. There are more households being formed and there aren't enough homes to keep up. So the only way to fix the affordability crisis is if we make it easier to build, and that's in areas where geography might not allow you to build out, we need to build up. So that's higher density projects and easier ways for builders to build.
Speaking of Trump, Kara, I'm curious, tariffs, deportations, how as an economist are you thinking through those variables, those policies, how they're affecting the housing market?
Ooh, well, again, I can't comment on any specific policies. I can tell you that if it's easier to build, the affordability crisis can be lessened. And we've seen this in places that there have been new construction. So places like Texas and Florida, where new construction was able to step up to meet demand, you've seen better affordability. So if you want this across the US, we need policies that make it easier for builders to build.
We've been talking, Kara, about national trends, national themes, but are there important regional differences, Kara, you would call out?
Of course. So market tightness varies widely depending on your location. So for example, in the Midwest and the Northeast, these are still sellers markets. We see limited inventory and rapid sales. And the most competitive markets are the relatively affordable markets where people can actually buy a home, but construction hasn't been able to keep up with demand. And then we're seeing softer buyers markets pop in places like Florida and Texas, where again, new construction stepped up to meet demand. And then I want to do an interesting call out for my hometown of Seattle, which made the transition to a buyer's market this August. We've seen that inventory rose 22% over the year, and that's probably played a key role in making it a buyer's market.
Kara, great to have you on the show today. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Stick around. Much more As for a Trend still to come. Stocks slipped for a second day in a row as the Fed sends mixed signals. Yahoo Finance's Jared Blikre joins us now with the trading day takeaways. Jared.
Thanks. We got to talk about stocks dropping and the dollar popping. And we'll review the price action over the last 2 days. Only a headline grabber because we have seen such bullishness recently. We had a 2-day slide maybe it was 2 weeks ago, but nevertheless, not even 1 percentage point down. So no big deal there. What I have been watching is the US dollar index, the so-called Dixie. Now that was up 0.6%, not a huge amount, but that is kind of noticeable for currencies. And in particular, I'm watching the move off of this low from last Wednesday. That was the FOMC press conference. That was when Jay Powell delivered that hawkish rate cut. And so since we are already at very close to multi-year lows, and I'll just show you the 5-year chart real quickly so you can kind of gauge that, it would be meaningful because the whole world is so bearish on the US dollar. If we just got a nice 1, 2, 3, 4% pop, I think that would kind of shock the markets just a little bit, but just something to watch out for. That's all it is right now. That's all we can do is talk about these kinds of warning signs when we have stocks at record highs.
Having said that, as you point out, stocks, we are still close to the record highs here.
Yes. Do you remember the late 90s and irrational exuberance? Well, this is the age of rational exuberance, perhaps. I had the chance to sit down with Kenny Glick. He's the owner of HitTheBid.com. This was a Stocks in Translation interview that comes out tomorrow, so check that. It's going to be, what's tomorrow? Thursday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern. And we were talking about all these record highs and how the market is very bullish. This guy's been trading for 30 years. Listen to what he had to say.
I love it. As the most bullish bear on earth, I've had to check my emotions at the door every morning. But we're going to get to that. It is this time different, inevitably.
You bet.
But it has been incredible. And, considering I've been trading since, 92, I thought I saw a lot from 97 to 2001. The opportunity is better now because there's just more choices and more activity and more liquidity and more platforms.
This was Kenny's 5th appearance on Stocks in Translation, and it's notable because I've watched him transform into the world's biggest bear into one of the biggest bulls that I've seen. So hopefully we're not top ticking anything, but take that for what it's worth.
What about the metals?
Oh,
gold.
You know what? Today it was all about copper. Gold kind of sank, and I think it was because of the dollar strength, but we did see copper, even WTI, pop a little bit. So let's take a look at the futures complex, and we'll get that on our heat map. And, I think I mentioned gold didn't really have the greatest day, and we also saw silver taking a little bit of a dip, but it's at 14-year highs. Here's HG equals F, and this is, let me show you the year to date, because this is a metal that has been on a wild ride. This happened over 2 sessions, and that was just jaw-dropping. That had to do with tariffs. And so this is a metal that's kind of at the whims of headlines and various actions by the administration. But nevertheless, when copper starts moving, especially quickly, and it was up 3.83% today, that's a lot for copper. I pay attention. They call it Dr. Copper for a reason. So we got copper futures heading a bit higher. And I did mention crude oil as well. That kind of explains the strength that we saw in the energy market. But you take a look at the year to date, this is a very sideways trading market. We did have the biggest 2-day performance that we've seen since late July, but nothing that I would see that would cause me any alarm for these kind of markets.
Finally, I've been out of the office for a few days, as you know.
Yes, sir.
Bring me up to speed on crypto.
Oh, crypto actually had a decent day in terms of Bitcoin. Looks like Ethereum and Solana down over the last 24 hours. But Bitcoin has just been kind of flummoxing me. I try to find correlations in market, and Bitcoin, the correlations just shift. So it was up today, not in lockstep with stocks, definitely. But here's what's happened this year. So it's up 20%, and after breaking out of this high, came back, retested the prior breakout area, and we're just going sideways. And so that's what we've done for, I don't know, that looks about a month and a half or so, until we break the range, until we get to those new record highs, or until we break down below the most recent lows. Let's give it 111, maybe even 110,000. Not much happening there.
All right, thank you, buddy.
You bet.
Appreciate it. Stick around. Much worse for a trend still to come. Road trips are not all about gas-guzzling campers anymore. A new wave of electric RVs are making their way into campgrounds. A new RV startup called Lightship, co-founded by a former Tesla battery engineer, offers trailers that power themselves on the road and run on battery and solar at the campsite. Joining me now, we got Lightship co-founder and chief product officer, Ben Parker. Ben, it is great to see you on set. So maybe start big picture, Ben, just for the uninitiated who are listening right now. Explain a little bit about Lightship, the problem you all are solving for. What makes you sort of different than the competition? What separates you?
Yeah, I mean, well, Josh, nice.
Good to meet you,
nice
man.
to see you. Thanks for having us. I would say the RV is it's an American icon. It's a pastime that so many Americans love. 10% of the country, believe it or not, own an RV. So this is huge. Huge part of Americana, and yet RVs in a lot of ways have not changed in 20, 30, maybe 40 years. And so I thought, my co-founder thought, he was also Tesla, that it was time for a big refresh of the RV. The world has changed a lot over the past 20 or 30 years, and we thought it was time to bring RVs up to date and into this, this new age of digitization, electrification, and still keep the most beautiful parts of camping the same that they've always been. I think in some ways camping is even better in such an action-packed world today than in decades past.
I totally agree with you. I think RV is as Americana as it gets. I mean, it's like baseball games, barbecue, and RVs, right? How fast, though, Ben? I'm just curious. How fast is that market growing?
Well, I think the numbers would tell you it's 5 to 7% a year and has been for a long time. Maybe more of the story behind it is that RVing has just been it's been a big part of the American experience for a long time, but it's been steadily on this uptick. More and more people are sort of wanting to get back to nature and have great natural experiences. We were talking about COVID off air. It really accelerated during COVID. So many people in our generation, millennial generation, got to experience RVing for the first time and were converted by it. And the Great American Road Trip is alive and well. It's just it's getting better, and we're trying to hasten that.
What are the benefits, Ben, if you explain like an electric RV as opposed to your traditional gas guzzler? Is it because it's cleaner, it's quieter? Like, what are the advantages?
Well, one thing to explain up front is that what we build at Lightship is a towable RV. So RVs are towable and drivable. Drivable, you got the steering wheel, usually called a motorhome as well. Towables are the RVs that you hitch behind your truck and pull. About 90% of RVs sold in the U.S. are towable because Americans love big trucks and SUVs, and so once you've got that that love affair, the towable follows. What sets us apart in the type of towable that we build is that we took our background from places like Tesla, where my co-founder and I found our start. He led the finance team there. I was a battery engineer there. Other new automotive startups that have since grown big, places like Rivian, Lucid, and applied what we had learned there to this new space. So we took a ground up approach. We thought about if you're starting from scratch, what should a towable RV behave like? And what came out, if people go to our website, lightshiprv.com, is basically a road-going spaceship. This thing looks, it's not your grandfather's RV, although we do have a lot of grandpas who are excited about it. It looks totally unique. It's got this really streamlined aerodynamic shape when you're towing it, which we call the road mode, and then the whole body of the vehicle expands to be double the size when you get to the campground. So you get this really awesome, spacious living space with panoramic wraparound windows. You know, if you're in a beautiful place like a national park, you catch the full vista. Maybe Half Dome is right in front of you in Yosemite. The entire roof of the RV is covered in solar, so we integrate solar panels right into the shape of the Lightship. And then in the floor, we pack a giant EV battery. It's a battery that is the same size as you would find in something like a Tesla Model 3 or a Model Y. So, you know, really big, 50 to 100 times as big as what you'd find in a traditional RV. And we can use that solar plus the battery to power all of your appliances on board. So if you're off grid, you can just keep camping for days and not worry about running out of power. We even use that same EV battery to power a motor on the trailer. So this is something that makes a Lightship a totally new class of vehicle. It is a self-propelling trailer. It acts a little bit like an e-bike in the sense that the motor on the trailer assists the truck that's pulling it. So the truck doesn't feel the weight of the Lightship as it's pulling it down the road, which is pretty impressive because it's a 27-foot long, you know, close to 8,000 pound vehicle when it's fully loaded. And that truck, if it's a gas or a diesel truck, will keep its normal highway fuel economy and get great kind of hybrid performance.
Let me ask you, Ben, how much does this all cost?
It's I would say we are starting in a premium segment of the market. It's not priced to infinity. We are a
What does
company
premium mean, Ben?
Premium means $100,000 to $200,000.
Okay.
We start at $125,000, and you can option up a Lightship into the high hundreds. So you would compare it. If you're thinking about products that are out there today, it's something like an Airstream. It's a really nice trailer. Now, of course, our ambition is to grow big and make Lightship a household brand name.
Does that mean more? Would that necessarily mean, Ben, relatively smaller, more affordable models on the way? At
Yes.
some point?
This is the beginning.
Yeah.
People RV in a lot of different ways, and there need to be different access points to getting into a Lightship. And so we're thinking about all the ways that we can offer people that experience, including a lineup of products.
Ben, I gotta tell you, that VO makes me want to RV. Thank you, man.
Cool.
Thank you for coming in. Appreciate it.
Let's go on a road trip.
I would love to. Thank you, sir.
Peace.
That is a wrap on today's Ask for a Trend. Be sure to come back tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. Eastern for all of the latest market moving stories affecting your wallet. Have a great night.